Being in a narcissistic relationship is no easy task. The cycle of narcissistic abuse, and I went with 5 years since that's about how long I was in mine. Closer to 6, but he was gone for some time at the end with one of his new supplies. Of course, that is until he gets bored with them or sick of them, or, they turn out to be a normal human like everybody else is. And then he would always come back until the day I finally stopped it, because they will just continue disrespecting you, doing what they want, yelling. It's a nightmare. So it doesn't start out like that, though. No, not at all. In the beginning, it's amazing. And the relationship begins with idealization, love bombing. It's going to be overwhelming affection. He doesn't do gifts. Premature declarations of being soulmates or twin flames. He did that to me, because he knows that creates a rapid bond. And the narcissist acts charming to gain your trust, often mirroring your desires and values, which is why you feel like you really have met your soulmate, because they're mirroring you. And it's like, wow, we have so much in common, until you get, a year into it and find out all of it was bullshit. But also in the beginning, they are on their best behavior, at least for 3 to 6 months. But once you reach that year and a half mark, stage 2 begins. Devaluation. This is where the abuser begins to criticize you, and he's definitely gaslighting you to undermine your self-worth and make you doubt your own sanity and reality. Yeah. This is the stage where he really gets the upper hand and maintains the control that he's, constructed over the first year. But this is the tricky stage, because they often get triggered when the victim ceases to provide constant admiration. And they are literally like a toddler, and they need so much attention. You could be in the other room for 5 minutes, and if in that 5 minutes he's calling your name and you don't rush to his, whims, oh, well, yeah, that's not going to cut it. He's not going to like that. And generally, when they get triggered like that, they will either give you the silent treatment, I don't know, for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. When he was cheating on me with the second double life behind my back, he ghosted me for 12 days. Yeah, I got the silent treatment for 12 days. It was absolutely excruciating. But did he care? Hell no, because he was doing what he wanted with who he wanted. As long as he has the 3 things that are most important to him, well, he doesn't care about anything else. And maybe you're giving him those three things, or maybe you did, but now you're not as much anymore. Well, he's always going to make sure he has those three things. And those three things are let's go within priority level. Top priority: drugs, sex, and then food and a place to sleep. Those are kind of hand in hand. So if you provide any of those things, well, he will stick around. But if you notice that he's being shady, or you try to call him out on his, behavior when he acts like an asshole, he's not going to like it. And eventually, he's going to start talking to one of the people that he has in his back pocket. Because, I was so naive throughout this part of the relationship, because it was still in the beginning stages. We were like just gotten engaged. We were living together. Here I'm thinking like things are progressing, right? Like we're, moving in the natural progression of a relationship. And because I was married before for 10 years, I understand what it's like to live with someone and to be in a relationship. A narcissist, on the other hand, has absolutely no idea what the meaning of love is, because they actually think that it's a feeling. Yeah, if you are making them feel good, that's love. Once you aren't making them feel good, even if it's only for a day, well, you don't love them anymore, and now they must move on to the person that they're likely cheating on you with anyways. Which brings me to stage 3. Once the victim is no longer useful or begins questioning the narcissist, right? Like, where have you been for 4 hours? Why is your location off? Why don't you answer when I call? Why does it take you 17 hours to text me back? Questions like that. He hates those. So he's likely going to avoid them. And in his mind, well, now he's going to start checking out, because, you're getting too close to the truth, and he doesn't like that. So they will either end the relationship suddenly or use the silent treatment. And I've had both of those happen, because you see this cycle here, it repeats. I didn't know that. I found that out much later, years later, when I was in therapy, because that's where he had driven me. Not literally, but, he made me insane. And, by the time he was on that second long-term double life relationship and living with her while still claiming everything's fine, even though I knew it wasn't, because I have a brain and instinct and intuition, things he doesn't take into consideration. Now, like I mentioned before, the same thing is going to happen to the new supply where he goes. So give it 6 to 12 months. If the new supply is really tolerant of his bullshit, it can go about 18 months. And then Enter stage 4, hoovering. Because this is where the narcissist attempts to suck the victim back into the relationship using manipulative tactics like fake apologies, crying. He even said he was going to go to therapy. And he went to one remote session and acted like, oh, well, now I did it, so are we good? He just has no concept of anything. But since narcissists have the emotional maturity of a 9-year-old, it is difficult. But before I knew about this, I did get hoovered after the first long-term relationship, because that woman got back together with her boyfriend and they moved an hour away. So my ex is now, like a lost puppy, and he can't be alone, not even for a day. It's like he cannot sit with himself. Most narcissists can't. That would cause them to self-reflect, something they know nothing about. And it's not like they have any real hobbies or interests, because they don't know who they are at a core level. And they wouldn't do anything like reading or writing because that's too intelligent for them. So they do what they do best and run back to the last supply. So when I agreed to give him another chance, he was on his best behavior for maybe a month, which is kind of pushing it for him. But then I start noticing patterns. And, if you hadn't ever been through this before, you wouldn't know what to look for. Patterns are only recognized, when you have something to compare it to. If there's nothing to compare and contrast, well, then you just have a bunch of things you're trying to figure out as you go along. But I start spotting these inconsistencies and these patterns, and sometimes he's even saying things the exact same way as he did before. And I was like, yeah, I recognize this. But, I didn't say that to him. I just paid attention, and more and more patterns became apparent. And then he's not coming over when he says he's going to be here. He's 4 or 5 hours late. Sometimes he doesn't show up until the next day. And, I would always tell him, look, we're very different, you and I, okay? I mean, we're like complete opposites. And I'm obviously much more mature than you are, and you have not taken any of that wisdom to heart. You've just overlooked it all. So you still operate at this low level. But if you don't want to be with me, that's fine. You can say that, and it's A-okay. And you can walk out the door and you can go do whatever you want. But don't come in here and try and give me all this bullshit about, oh, I love you so much. No, you're my soulmate. No, I'm not doing anything. Swearing up and down that he's not doing anything wrong. Right. Because, I don't know, it's like, because they operate at such a basic remedial level, they think everyone does. As if I'm just going to, just blindly believe him. Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. Because I don't have eyes or a brain. So when you notice those patterns, you can see what you're dealing with. So, here's the abuse evolution. Years 1 and 2, known as the hook phase. This is characterized by intense highs, love bombing, followed by confusing lows, devaluation. The victim often rationalizes the abuse, sometimes blaming themselves. I didn't blame myself. I just wondered what the hell was wrong with him. And then I started trying to figure it out. At first, I thought it was bipolar because he's like, highs and lows. But nope, that wasn't it, because there was more to it. Something more sadistic, cold, calculating. But yeah, during years 1 and 2, that's when he really is just overwhelming your nervous system with the intermittent reinforcement. That's what that is. It's intermittent reinforcement. So now you're getting conditioned. You don't know you are, but you are. Then, in years 3 and 4, oh, and he's cheating on you the entire time. Not just with those long-term double life people, but, other exes, baby mama, people you've never heard of. Which is also why he doesn't let his phone leave his sight. It probably doesn't leave his grip. If it does, it's locked, and you don't know the password. But yeah, when we were living together, before he moved out of our bedroom and, relocated to the guest room, yeah, he did that once he was really, in with the first long-term relationship. But he would sleep with his phone in his pocket, laying on it, or clutched in his hand under his pillow. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not suspicious at all, right? So, years 3 and 4, he's going to be on to probably the second double life by now. The cycle stabilizes into a pattern of trauma bonding where the victim is emotionally dependent on the abuser. The victim experiences high levels of anxiety and self-doubt. As the years went on, they really did get harder, because year 1, that was like a breeze compared to year 5. Year 5, I was in therapy the whole year. I thought I was going to have to be hospitalized because he literally drove me insane, purposely. And because the trauma bond is the same as a drug addiction, and research has shown that it is 3 times harder to break a trauma bond than a heroin addiction, you can imagine the type of withdrawal you go through. So that's why I try to warn people before they get too far along and wrapped up in a toxic relationship, because the longer you stay, just, you can take my word for it, the harder it is to get out. It sucks. So then we get to year 5 and kind of year 6. So this is where the abuse becomes highly erratic, and he is shifting between all the stages. So the victim may experience intense trauma and difficulty distinguishing reality due to prolonged gaslighting, often needing outside intervention to escape. And I sure did. That's interesting that, when I looked this up, that it said that, because Yeah. By, it was by the end of year 4 and into year 5, I was in therapy. And I was in it for a year. And when I started it, I really still didn't understand what had happened to me. So I start therapy, and I'm talking to the therapist, and I'm telling her, this, that, and the other, and how I'm feeling, and how I thought, I was losing my mind. I said, I think I might need to go into like some sort of like hospital or inpatient program. And, so she's like still calmly talking to me. And then we get to the end of the hour, and she goes, "Do you realize that you've been narcissistically abused?" And I went, "A what?" She said, "Do you know what a narcissist is?" And I was like, "Not exactly. It's someone that likes to look at themselves a lot, take pictures, social media." And she was like, "No." She's like, "I have some homework for you." And right there it all began to lead me to where I am now. So I say this not in any sort of malicious way or jealous way. I say this to anyone who is in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, or in my case, he ended up being a dark triad personality because of that sadistic side, where he didn't care what he did or how it made me feel. And if I was crying, he didn't care. He wasn't going to leave, or, where he was at. He wasn't going to leave his other girlfriend's house to, come and hug me or anything. No, no. I'd be lucky if I got a text back the same day. But what I noticed in the end, at the very end, I mean, the way he was coming over here and just, he wouldn't leave. He was so just incredibly cruel. And I never thought that he could be like that. From the time I met him until then, a completely different person. I didn't even know he had the capability to be like that. So, he just ramped up the abuse, and he would do things to make me cry on purpose. And then he would sit there and watch me, just sit there with it, like almost like a blank stare, but sometimes a little bit of a smirk. And I'm not kidding, his eyes looked black, like just a hollow void, psychopathic eyes. Not joking. But I think anybody that maliciously can make you cry like that and then just sit there and watch you is evil. That's evil. Especially to someone who, let's see, I saved his life, not once, but twice, taking him to the emergency room. First for an overdose, second for an appendicitis. I did everything under the sun to help him because he's just so helpless and he just needs someone to do everything for him. I got him 6 jobs, 6 very good plumbing jobs at large companies. In a 2 to 3 year period, he got fired from all of them. I don't think he's worked since 2 years ago, 2023. Oh, 3 years now almost. The phone that he has right now and the service, I got it. So, yeah, he wouldn't be calling or texting anybody if it wasn't for me. Do you think he cares? Nope. He's still gonna chat with whoever he wants and send and receive all the nude photos he wants. He does not give a damn. I mean, You can imagine what you would do for someone over the course of that many years when they're practically helpless. And I was so exhausted. The second year we were living together, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And I was so tired and so exhausted. I could take like 3 or 4 naps a day and still sleep all night long. As long as he wasn't like waking me up. Um, and I had no idea why. And I got like blood work done and all this stuff and different like doctors and tried like different supplements. I was always trying to figure it out, right? But the main reason I was trying to figure it out is because he was so critical. Because, when he came home from work, if I happened to be napping on the couch, oh, he didn't like that. Then I was lazy, failing to look around the house and see that it's spotless. And he never needed to go to the grocery store or put toilet paper on the roll or do dishes. He didn't lift a fucking finger. But yeah, I'm lazy because I'm taking a nap. Well, I found out later on, after I had moved out and then started getting my strength back. And especially over the past year since I have not seen him and he has not been in my space, I have like gone back to normal or better than normal. So it was because of the narcissistic abuse. It can make you physically ill. Yeah. Because all those highs and lows, you get an argument, your body's pumping cortisol. You're walking on eggshells, your body's pumping cortisol. He comes around and now he's nice for, 4 hours. Well, then your body starts producing oxytocin. And it's like an up and down. But because of all the gaslighting, and he's just literally rewriting history in real time and makes you doubt your sanity. And that's very, I mean, I don't even know what the word would be. Disorienting. That's very disorienting. And, you can imagine what it would be like for a prolonged period. You're not going to know up from down. I swear, every time I had a conversation with him, I felt more confused than when I went in. And, if I was trying to talk about a certain issue, well, maybe that was the intention when I went in. But, by the time it got to the end of the conversation, he was yelling at me. And I was like, we didn't even talk about what I wanted to talk about. You changed the subject, and then you were all over the place. He talks in circles. It's on purpose. Confuse you, throw you off balance. It's a manipulation tactic. He has so many manipulation tactics. He could probably write a book on manipulation. So, yeah, gaslighting is when, they make you doubt your memory or your perception of events. When he's like, I didn't say that. That's not how it happened. I literally had to start writing everything down because he was doing that. And I was like, no, that's not what you did. And he is so convincing because he's so manipulative that you want to believe him. And you almost want to doubt your own sanity when you know you're right. So I started writing everything down. And that way, when he tried to pull that shit, I'd be like, no. See, because this right here says that this is what happened. But here's a fucked up thing. It's like, you start to become an attorney for yourself. you're always like in a courtroom trying to prove facts and logic and what he's doing. So when he was cheating with someone, like year 4, um, he kept claiming he wasn't. I'm not doing anything with her. I haven't touched her. But this is also the same person who told me that he hasn't seen, he hasn't seen the person that he was cheating with in a long time, and he hasn't touched anyone since her, which is, kind of hilarious, since every time I went over to his house, he came walking out from somebody else's place. Now, if you're always over someone else's house and I mean, just odds are you're going to be doing something over there. You're not just sitting there looking at the wall. And, I could see if maybe like, okay, one time I came by and he was over there. But no, the last 3 times that I went over, he came up walking out of there. So he tried to tell me, that's just his neighbor, all vague. And I'm like, well, who's your neighbor? He wouldn't tell me. Of course, if I want to find out something, I'm going to find it out. So I did. And lo and behold, well, it's a woman only a year older than me. So what do you think he's doing over there? I mean, other than getting high and eating her food. But yeah, he was, he'll swear up and down, I'm not doing anything. So I'm showing him these text messages, right? I'm like, well, look at this and look at this. And here's what you said here. And here's what happened. And he goes, I don't care about any of that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what do you mean you don't care about any of it? I'm like, look. I'm like really trying to show him like these text messages, because I'm like, this is the evidence. What are you talking about? And he goes, I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care about the text messages. I remember how it happened, okay? Like I know. Yeah, that's not psychotic or anything, right? So instead of looking at the text message where I can show him exactly what happened, he's going to just go with what he's made up in his mind because he thinks that's reality. He also suffers from a delusional disorder. Not joking. Sometimes it might sound like I'm joking because I'm sarcastic a lot of the times, but no, I've thoroughly researched everything and been studying psychology for 2 years now, in addition to, just corroborating with my therapist. And yeah, he definitely is a dark triad personality with a delusional disorder. So yeah, he's a real joy to be around. That's sarcasm. Anyways, that's it. So good luck, and if you're with a narc, get the hell out.